Hey yo, and welcome. Today I'm going to try to attempt to show the workflow that is needed in order to take something from Blender and upload it into Planet Coaster. Let's try this out. According to the Thememaker's Toolkit, or TMT for short, triangle count allows up to 8,000. There are 6 levels of detail required, and materials need to be set up in a specific way. There are a lot of different workflows that can be utilized, but today we are going to do a simple workflow. Near the bottom of this web page, there is an example for a transparent metal and all the maximum number of PMG maps that can be used. We are not going to do all of them, however. Let's try to use the Flexicolor and the emissive map to allow it to glow at night. That'll make it fun. Let's switch back to Blender. So there are many features that are available in Blender. I can't talk about all of them because I'm very new to the application. Also, please excuse any lack of knowledge on terminology. Comments are welcome to correct my ignorance. For the purpose of this video, only basic need-to-know features will be shown. In the default view, there is a drawing area. When Blender is first opened, you have an object, a lamp, and a camera in this section. The right click on the mouse will allow you to select anything in the drawing area, and then you can move it along the X, Y, or Z axes. On the right side, there is a hierarchy section you can use to select items using the left mouse click. The object icon is an upside-down triangle. The object name can be anything, but for Planet Coaster, you have to include the level of detail or LOD suffix. Since this is the first LOD, we're going to call it cube_L0. We need to add additional information to the object so that it will work in Planet Coaster. To do this, we can explode the hierarchy outline by clicking on the plus icon to the left of cube L0. Underneath the object, there is a material object called Material. Below the hierarchy outline section, there is a Properties section. In that Properties section, there is a line of icons. Those icons are set up from left to right, giving you the hierarchy of the objects listed in the above section. When you click on them, the associated properties for the object selected will show up. We need to look at the material properties. With the cube selected, click on the material icon. The important thing for Planet Coaster in the material property section is the UV map. If you don't have a UV map, the TMT upload will fail. There are more sophisticated methods to create the UV map using texture, including baking those textures out for use in Planet Coaster, but we are not doing that here. A quick way to create a UV map is the following. Move your mouse to the drawing area. Hitting the Tab key will allow you to toggle the drawing area as shown from Object Mode to Edit Mode. While in Edit Mode, press the U key on the keyboard, and that will bring up the UV Map contextual commands. Select Smart UV Project from the list. Leave the default options alone and click the OK button. This will create the UV map required by Planet Coaster. So now we have the first level of detail created. Let's switch over to the TMT user guide for a moment and go to the materials section and double check the naming conventions. In Blender, you need to have the model name with the different levels of detail. You need one material and one texture. Please note, the textures do not have to be named as shown in Blender. These will be PNG map files that we will provide as part of the upload to the TMT. When I figure out how to bake the map files from Blender and use them for Planet Coaster, I may produce another video. So the material still needs a texture. Let's go do that now. Creating a texture in Blender is quite simple. Select the object, select the texture properties. It's the icon to the immediate right of the material icon on the property icon list. Click on the plus to create a texture and select any texture from the list. In this example, the internal wood texture was selected. If you want to render the object in Blender, simply hit the F12 key. These textures are not going to be used for Planet Coaster, so you do not have to worry about how this looks in Blender. The F11 key will close the rendering screen. So we have our first level of detail set up with the minimum requirements for Planet Coaster. Let's verify that our dimensions are set up correctly. With the mouse in the drawing area, hitting the N key on the keyboard will open up the Properties panel. There is a section for the dimensions, and we can see that they are 0.5. Now we need to create our remaining 5 levels of detail. Side note, there are many preferences that you can do in Blender. Layer Management is a useful add-on that I would recommend. You can turn it on by selecting File, and then User Preferences, then Add-ons. Select the checkbox to the left of Layer Management, and then click on Save User Settings in the bottom left-hand corner. You will now have an additional tab in the Tool Shelf pane on the left called Layers. There are checkboxes at the top that let you configure the tab. I prefer to have the bottom 2 checkboxes selected, but you can set this up any way you wish. Layer Management has an arrow icon that you can use to select all the objects on that layer. Initially, I was using this to create my additional layers of detail, but it was also making copies of my camera and light that I really didn't want. So I found a quicker way. Go to the Hierarchy section on the right and just select the cube. Then move your mouse to the drawing area and hold down the Shift key and press the D key on the keyboard. Please note, do not move your mouse at this point, or the newly duplicated object will move. If you accidentally do that, go ahead and hit the Escape key. So with a couple of Shift Ds and just hitting the Enter key, you now have the other 5 levels of detail. The names of the duplicated objects are close, but they have zeros and an extra period. So to fix this, we can just double-click on the name and remove the zeros in the period. It doesn't take that long. Also, a trick. Since Blender automatically alphabetizes after you rename something, start from the bottom of the list when renaming so the objects won't be reorganized all the time. With the LODs created, we now need to move them to their own layer. The fastest way that I have found to do this is to use the Object Properties section. Object Properties has a place that indicates what layer the object is located. So we select the L1 object, click on the layer in the Object Properties that we want to move it to, and it will move that object to that layer. With a little repetition, we have all the LODs moved into separate layers. Everything is ready for export. Let's make sure. The number of triangles in the cube is 12. According to the TMT user guide, I don't have to deprecate anything under 64 triangles. You actually do not have to deprecate while you are working on your piece. So if you're uploading to Planet Coaster multiple times and not publishing it to the workshop, you do not need to worry about deprecation. After all, we don't want to be blamed for the poor performance of the game. Let's go export our creation. Go to File and then Export and select FBX. There are 4 settings that are important to note. Those are version, forward, up, and animations. There isn't a consensus from the people that I have talked with on what the settings should be. One person didn't change a thing and it worked for them. According to the TMT YouTube video by Frontier Developments, they like using the ASCII setting for version. According to the TMT user guide, forwards should be set to Y forward and up should be set to Z up. As for me, my settings use ASCII, Y forward, and Z up, and I have not had any problems to date. Finally, if you're using animations, you leave the animation checkbox checked. In this example, we are not using animations, so the checkbox needs to be unchecked. Once you have your settings changed, click on the Export button in the top right-hand section of the window. We got export warning errors. This is normal, since we are doing crazy scales to make this work for Planet Coaster. Now we can go to the TMT website and upload our FBX file. Let's go. Click on Create Item. Name your creation accordingly and provide a description. We are using FlexiColor, so select your default color. Use the pull-downs in the second column to select the appropriate options. Cost is relative to what you think it would cost in Planco dollars. The sound categories are for the item drop sounds. We need a zip file. Let's go create that now. Open Windows Explorer and go to the folder where the FBX file is located. For the PNG map files, I'm using basic solid colors. No special textures since I haven't really figured that out yet. The image mapping files are going to have the naming convention of whatever the material name is called, followed by an underscore and the 2 characters. For this simple tutorial, I need to use material underscore bc.png, material underscore f1.png, and material underscore em.png. For these simple map files, you can use Paint and create a 256 by 256 pixel square image. More complex image maps can be baked from Blender, but I don't know how to do that yet. Also, you can have rectangle-shaped maps as well, as long as they follow the guidelines in the TMT user guide. For example, you can have a map that is 1024 by 64 pixels if that works for your creation. In the TMT user guide, it shows what is needed in the zip file, the FBX model file, the PNG map files, and an icon image file. While I was being frustrated with the steep learning curve of Blender and trying to learn all this to create stuff for Planet Coaster, I did happen upon the Planet Coaster forum. In the forum, there is a whole section devoted to the Thememaker's Toolkit. In one of the sections, I found a post on Blender and it was quite active, so I posted my frustrations and errors that I was getting. Someone actually took the time to look at my simple cube and provide some excellent feedback. I will provide links to these resources in the video's description. The feedback given contained critical pieces that I was missing: UV maps, material requirements, LOD information. They even included helpful screenshots and taught me about Flexicolor. Flexicolor is fun. Let's see how this works. All you need for Flexicolor is an alpha mask color. Create a 256 by 256 pixel off-white square PNG file. To get off-white, select white and then change the saturation level from 240 to 220. Now let's go back to the folder location where the FBX and all the PNG maps are located. Select the files that you want to include into the zip file. Once they are all selected, right-click on the FBX file and choose Send to, and then select Compressed File. Please note, if you right-click on a different file, that file name will be the name of the zip file. This note has been your Windows 10 pro tip. Now let's get back to the process. If you double-click on the zip, we can verify that everything is in there. The icon.png file is missing. We don't need to recreate the zip. Simply drag the icon.png file into the zip and it will be added. Switch over to the TMT webpage and we can now add the zip file. For the preview image and for simplicity, let's use the icon.png file that we already have. Side note, I will usually have an initial icon image that is a screenshot from Blender. When I get the creation in Planet Coaster, I will then take another screenshot and replace the icon.png and the preview image. We now have everything ready to go. Hit the Submit button. The first stage is uploading the information to the TMT server. Once uploaded, it will verify the file according to the constraints and requirements. My submission failed. I expected that. The error information is saying the model is too small, but we verified that scale was set at 0.5. What's going on? If we look at the details closer, the z-accent is showing 0.005. This means that our scale is off by 100 times. Let's fix this. Back to Blender we go. Let's think. How did we scale in Blender? Oh yeah, that's right. The easy way to scale. Use the Properties panel. Remember how to open it? To refresh, opening the Properties panel uses the N key on the keyboard while you're in the drawing area. Notice that there is no metric indicator after the 0.5. Well, I sure didn't, and I played around a lot until I figured it out. So, in order to set the default scale for the entire file, you go to the Scene Properties. Well, look at that. The properties weren't set up correctly. From what I've been told and what I have found out to be true, for measurements to match with Planet Coaster, you need to have Blender set to metric and the scale set at 0.01. With the proper scale set at the scene, all we have to do is go to a dimension in the property panel and type in 0.5m. You can hit the Tab key or the Enter key, and the associated axis in the scale section above will adjust its scale to match. Once we know the scale, all we need to do is simply scale each X, Y, and Z axis for each object on each layer. You could delete all objects but one, make a change to that one object, and then copy it back out to each of the layers. Or, if you've already applied deprecation to your LODs, you can do it as shown currently and scale each object individually. Either way, it doesn't take that long to scale everything. Pro tip: when you want something as small as possible, I have found that setting it to exactly 0.5 meters in Blender doesn't always work in Planet Coaster. I would get a very cryptic PCUGC failed to load error, and I couldn't find anything on what to do at this point. So I tried moving the scale up to 51 centimeters, and it worked. I really got confused at this point, so I decided to delete and recreate the LODs, just for sanity's sake. All set, let's export our creation again. Blender will retain the settings that you have set on the export for each session that you have the application open. Pro tip: I figured this out after recording this video, and I really didn't want to splice in yet another take. User preferences will not save your export settings. If you want to save your export settings, there is an option just above version called operator presets that you can utilize. So the new FBX file is created. Let's switch over to the folder where the FBX and the image maps are located. We are going to select that and the other image files that we want. The nice thing with the increment file name feature in Blender is that you can have built-in version history with it. And it will create version history for not only your Blender file, but also for your zip files. So if you're playing with something and it doesn't work out, you can always revert back to a working version. Let's go to the TMT and submit a new version. Nice! We don't have to fill out all the information again. We can just add the new zip file. You do not have to put anything in the revision notes, but I like putting something in there. Upload status just finished, and we've entered the building status phase. The PGUCG file is being built at this stage. According to the TMT user guide, this can take up to 30 minutes to build. Since Planet Coaster isn't running, I'm going to launch it now. One really nice feature is if you have Planet Coaster open while you are submitting a creation, you will get a notification in-game. Now that Planet Coaster is open, you can see the other creation that I'm currently working on. I haven't quite got the ring to work correctly with the Flexicolor. I still need to deprecate it before I publish it to the workshop as well. So the submission completed successfully. Click on the download button to save the PCUGC file to your computer. Open the downloaded folder location and move the file to the TMT folder in your C Users, Username Documents, Frontier Developments, Planet Coaster TMT folder. Pro tip: when I created my first creation, the TMT folder was not in the Planet Coaster section. All I did was create the folder and it worked for me. Windows 10 tip: you can use the Quick Access section to right-click on the Quick Access and add frequently used folders by selecting Pin Current Folder to Quick Access. You do not have to restart Planet Coaster. Simply click on the Toolkit tab and there is a refresh icon. Third time's the charm. Hopefully this will be the last take of this tutorial. I did notice something during the editing of this video and I had to correct it. The name of my material in Blender is called Material. The PNG map image files are all prefixed with default. My submission to the TMT wouldn't work because I didn't have the right names for my maps. So to fix this, I simply just rename the PNG map files. Let's see if that works. This is version 4 of the zip file. Okay, it's done. Let's take a look at it. Refresh the toolkit items. Grab my cube. Good. There's a default color now. Oh, look, the Flexicolor is actually working too. Turn it to night, and look, it now glows at night as well. Wonderful. When you're ready to publish, you can simply hover over your toolkit item and there is a publish icon, just like a blueprint. This ring is already on the workshop. The other creations haven't been published yet. Thank you for watching this tutorial on the workflow for a simple creation from Blender to Planet Coaster. Click like if you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you want to learn about more things in Blender from a Planet Coaster point of view. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you want to be notified when I publish another video, click on the bell notification icon.頑張ってね. Bye-bye.